Good morning and welcome to our live stream service. I'm Amanda Brawley and I'm a member of this amazing, resilient congregation. Together with all the people who have contributed to the ability to stream our services, I welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Metro Atlanta North congregation, which we like to call UUMAN. We are glad that you found UUMAN this morning and look forward to getting to know you and answering any questions you may have about getting involved. Would you kindly fill out our online visitor form so that we can add you to our email list? This is located on our website, UUMAN.org. Today at 2 p.m., we will have a congregational meeting to reveal our Planting the Future results. You can read more about it in the newsletter, and a link for the Zoom meeting has been sent out via announcements. It is also listed on our website. Click calendar at the top right of the home page. Reverend Dave's sermon this morning, Don't Ask, Don't Tell, was purchased by Carla Kapaskas at our annual Harvest Moon Service Auction fundraiser. You too will be able to purchase a sermon of your very own when our auction returns in November. All proceeds benefit UUMAN. If you are seeing us online for the first time or the fifth or whatever, welcome. Everyone is invited to join us for virtual coffee and conversation after the service at 10:45. The link for this gathering can also be found on the homepage of our website. And now, let me share a little inspiration from Krista Tippett, who curates the On Being Project. In the meantime, I wish you rest and ease and nourishment. And if you aren't able to reach for those things, not all are right now, I wish you kindness toward yourself and the knowledge that you are not alone. Life unfurls ahead of us, more vigorous than our despair or exhaustion. We have it in us to rise to the grave and beautiful callings that have been placed before us, but only if we walk toward them together, and we will.
Good morning. I'm Ayana Kafi, UUMAN's membership coordinator. If you're new, we'd love an opportunity to personally introduce ourselves to you and answer any questions that you have about UUMAN, about membership, and about our community. So take a moment to fill out the visitor form at UUMAN.org. Then one of our amazing, incredible members of the membership committee will contact you to connect you with information and people who have shared interests with you. You can also reach out to us at membership@UUMAN.org. We'd love to answer any of your questions.
Good morning. Brene Brown says, "Don't walk through the world looking for evidence that you don't belong, because you'll always find it. Don't walk through the world looking for evidence that you're not enough, because you'll always find it. Our worth, belonging, and meaning are not negotiated with other people. We carry those inside our hearts. Courage is to tell the story of who you are with your whole heart." Again, good morning. And now let us light our chalice together. This morning's chalice lighting is by the Reverend Bruce Southworth. He writes, "We gather as a community of memory and as a community of hope to celebrate life and its infinite possibilities for love. We light this candle as a symbol of the light within every human heart. May our individual sparks meet and merge, bringing both warmth and light to the world."
Once, a famine, a time when there wasn't enough food to eat, overtook a small village. This changed the very culture from one that was friendly and welcoming to one that wasn't sociable at all. No one helped each other, no one came out to play, no one even talked to their neighbors anymore. One day, a stranger passed through the village. The stranger asked all the people that they found if there was a place to eat and rest. They responded by saying, "You better move along," and they shut their doors in his face. At one house at the center of town, they found an elder just lounging in their yard. The elder was about to turn away the stranger when the stranger said, "I actually already have most of what I need. All I need is a big pot, some water, and a fire. Help me with that, and I'll share my soup with you." The elder was both hungry and cautious, so they brought out a great pot and lit a fire for the stranger in a pit in the front yard. As the water started getting hot, the stranger produced a large stone from their bag and placed it inside of the pot. They proclaimed that this is a magic stone, perfect for making the tastiest soup. The elder thought that they might be feeling weak from hunger because in a few moments, the water was actually starting to smell good. Soon, a neighbor came from their house with a small basket of misshapen carrots from their garden. They asked, "If I help with your soup, can I eat with you tonight?" The elder was about to turn the neighbor away when the stranger bellowed, "Absolutely! We'd be happy to take your carrots for our magic stone soup." So they cut the carrots and into the pot they went. Another neighbor appeared with wilted old cabbage saying, "I saved this from my garden." And into the soup it went. Soon, neighbors were coming to donate bits from their gardens and cupboards, potatoes, onions, celery, herbs, salt, and pepper. Some even brought loaves of bread. It was not long before the soup was bubbling and letting off a hearty aroma. This brought cheer to the community. They all sat down with heaping bowls of magic stone soup and slices of bread. They were happily conversing as if no time had passed. Somehow, the villagers had enough for everyone to have seconds and even thirds if they wanted. This made the whole group so jolly that the soup party lasted late into the night. When the embers were dying, the stranger quietly, as if not to disturb the merriment, fished the magic stone from the pot, placed it in their bag, and made their way from the village. We are a community not wholly unlike the one I described. This community cares for each other and pitches in where it's needed. But where the village depends on each other for basic physical needs, this community depends on each other for spiritual needs and fellowship. If we are all bringing an ingredient to share in the magic stone soup of this community, what beliefs, rituals, traditions, and wisdom do you have to offer? And how will you choose to share it?
Now is the time in the service when we share with each other any joys in order to multiply their blessing, as well as sorrows to divide the weight of their burden. The Podorowski family is celebrating that their Jillian turned 11 this week on the 19th. Happy birthday. They are also pleased to have 2 middle schoolers who are happy to be back in school. A big joy from Sue Greenspan. Community members on Nextdoor voted her cat-sitting business a favorite business in 2021. She's so over the moon happy about this and very proud of the relationships developed and how she continues to grow with her clients, both human and feline. This recognition has just made her heart and soul purr. Last weekend, I kicked my first baby bird out of the nest and installed her into her new nest in a dorm at Louisiana State University. She has been sharing daily the Welcome Week activities with me via cell phone, and today she turns 18. Happy birthday, Lucia. My mother, Kay, was able to come visit this weekend and celebrate my youngest, Reese, turning 3, and my nephew, Dayton, turning 2. They share a birthday. A sorrow for Afghanistan and all those who fought the Taliban and despair. A sorrow that we are not yet able to gather in person for our services. And I drop a pebble for those joys and sorrows, not shared here, but felt in the heart.
All My Friends Are Finding New Beliefs by Christian Wyman. All my friends are finding new beliefs. This one converts to Catholicism and this one to trees. In a highly literary and hitherto religiously indifferent Jew, God womps on like a genetic generator. Paleo, keto, South Beach bourbon. Exercise regimen so extreme, she merges with machine. One man marries a woman 20 years younger and twice in one brunch uses the word verdant. Another's brick-fisted belligerence gentles into dementia, and one, after a decade of finical feints and teases, like a sandpiper at the edge of the sea, decides to die. Priesthoods and beasthoods, sombers and glees, high-styled renunciations and avocations of dirt, sobrieties, satieties, pilgrimages to the very bowels of being. All my friends are finding new beliefs, and I am finding it harder and harder to keep track of the new gods and the new loves and the old gods and the old loves, and the days have daggers and the mirrors motives, and the planets turning faster and faster in the blackness, and my nights and my doubts and my friends, my beautiful, credible friends.
When I was about 29 and a single mother, I went back to college to finish my bachelor's degree. One of the classes I took was American literature, which I enjoyed a lot. I loved being introduced to these previously unknown works of art to me. At one point, we read Benjamin Franklin, and he became one of my favorite founders, probably one of my all-time favorite Americans. A few facts you may not know about him. He became a vegetarian at age 16. Of course, he wooed the French into becoming our revolutionary ally. By the time he went to France, he had already discovered and written about electricity before he went to the old continent on that endeavor. I appreciated that, unlike most of the other founders, he was not from a wealthy family, nor did he hold land or have a classical education. He came from a very large family and had to educate himself. What I learned also since becoming a Unitarian is that Franklin attended the very first Unitarian gathering, which was held in an Essex Street meeting place in London, England, along with the discoverer of oxygen, Joseph Priestley, who himself went on to lead the founding of the Unitarian Church here in America. Having read a lot about Mr. Franklin, I am certain that he would be very pleased with Unitarian Universalism in its form today. But anyway, at that time in that literature class, I became enamored with Franklin, and mostly because we read what was his third autobiography attempt. He never finished his autobiography since he was so busy later in life with the diplomatic causes, as well as the construction of our American form of government and other civic duties. But in his autobiography, he outlined a scheme of living on a somewhat virtual philosophical basis, which he called the art of virtue. He originally named 12 virtues of temperance, silence, order, resolution, frugality, industry, sincerity, justice, moderation, cleanliness, tranquility, and chastity. Some people also know that he was father to an illegitimate son who he raised with his common-law wife. And he writes, "My list of virtues contained at first but 12, but a Quaker friend having kindly informed me that I was generally thought proud, that my pride showed itself frequently in conversation, that I was not content with being in the right when discussing any point, but was overbearing and rather insolent, of which he convinced me by mentioning several instances. I determined endeavoring to cure myself, if I could, of this vice or folly among the rest, and added humility to my list, giving an extensive meaning to the word. The theme of pride versus humility has been a little strong in my life lately, just sort of in the way that, well, pride can be kind of a funny thing. It isn't typically the best course of action when we have so clearly set ourselves in one corner or in one position. Humility is a much better approach, and one that garners us a measure of respect which outweighs any that pride may falsely allow us to claim. Franklin says that he forbid himself to use words or expressions that contained a fixed opinion, such as certainly, undoubtedly, etc., and instead would try to say, I conceive, I apprehend, or I imagine a thing to be so or so, etc. And he continues, when another asserted something that I thought an error, I denied myself the pleasure of contradicting him abruptly, and of showing immediately some absurdity in his proposition. And in answering, I began by observing that in certain cases or circumstances, his opinion would be right, but in the present case, there appeared or seemed to me some difference, etc. I soon found the advantage of this change in my manner. The conversations I engaged in went on more pleasantly. The modest way in which I proposed my opinions procured them a readier reception and less contradiction. I had less mortification when I was found to be in the wrong, and I more easily prevailed with others to give up their mistakes and join with me when I happened to be in the right. And this mode, which I at first put on with some violence to natural inclination, became at length so easy and so habitual to me that perhaps for these 50 years past, no one has ever heard a dogmatical expression escape me. And to this habit, after my character of integrity, I think it principally owing that I had early so much weight with my fellow citizens when I proposed new institutions or alterations in the old, and so much influence in public councils when I became a member. For I was but a bad speaker, never eloquent, subject to much hesitation in my choice of words, hardly correct in language, and yet I generally carried my points. In reality, there is, perhaps, no one of our natural passions so hard to subdue as pride. Disguise it, struggle with it, beat it down, stifle it, mortify it as much as one pleases. It is still alive, and will every now and then peep out and show itself. You will see it perhaps often in this history, for even if I could conceive that I had completely overcome it, I should probably be proud of my humility.
Thank you, Amanda. The Reverend Christine Robinson says, "We Unitarian Universalists are free to believe whatever we want, and most of us don't." Ouch. She's poking fun at our Unitarian Universalist faith, satirizing our faith, poking fun at our best efforts at faith development. And it is a bit funny, but it smarts a bit too. If all UUs were given a truth serum, and forced to answer a multiple choice question as to why they attend a Unitarian Universalist congregation, with the possible answers of A, community, social connections, B, social justice, C, coffee, or D, faith development. And if I had to place a bet, I don't think faith development would win place or show in that race. Sadly, I think faith development might be bringing up the rear. Critics of Unitarian Universalism will say that a faith tradition that subscribes to the idea that you can believe anything you want is, in reality, a faith tradition that likely subscribes to not believing in anything, and therefore, not really a faith tradition at all. I believe that UUs receive this criticism because UUs love, and maybe love isn't the right word. Maybe they need, more than anything else, certainty. They need certainty in their faith, that it must be buttoned up and figured out. In another writing of our poet this morning, Christian Wyman, he puts it this way: I tell myself I have no problem believing in God if belief can be defined as some utter interior assent to a life that is both beyond and within this one. And if assent can be understood as once active and unconscious. And if God is some mysterious way both this action and its object, and if any of these qualifications, this sentence still makes any effing sense. Yeah, clearly I do have something of a problem. I love Hollis' air quotes. Yes, in his faith statement, it's preposterous. And our critics will sometimes say that our faith might be preposterous and that we too might have a problem. A part of my faith is in the yin-yang of all things. The presence of a perceived object and its perceived object, perceived opposite in one another. The presence of a perceived object and perceived opposite in one another. I say perceived opposite and perceived object, but really when you're looking deeply, they might perhaps be the same thing, ontologically the same thing. And that it's our perception of the object and its opposite that is really misconstrued and wrong. The yin-yang of a true faith tradition comes with faith and its companion doubt. Yet they may be part of the same thing. As I've said before in other sermons, faith with certainty, faith without doubt, to me, is fundamentalism. And it's preposterous, a denial of reality. And although personally I believe what I have to believe in, not necessarily what I want to believe in, it is technically correct to say that as a UU, you can believe whatever you want. Yet when you put it that way, to me, it describes a so-called faith that really doesn't ask anything of you. It doesn't ask you to commit to anything. It doesn't ask you to be uncomfortable when it's called for. It doesn't ask you to look at yourself in the mirror. It doesn't ask you to confront anything in yourself. And ultimately, it doesn't ask you to get out of bed in the morning. That is, of course, unless you want to. We UUs describe ourselves as an intellectual bunch, yet sometimes I wonder if we might be intellectually intimidated by threatened by, and fearful of faith's companion, doubt. And as a result, and as a way of preserving self-protection, we abandon the faith project entirely. Psychoanalyst James Hollis writes, "I know that wherever there is certainty, there is naivete, unconsciousness, or defense against doubt. Wherever there is a hysterical certainty, it is because doubt has already planted its black flag inside the soul, and the ego is running away like a child." Each year, we ask our coming-of-age students to articulate their faith statements, yet we so rarely, as adults, share our own. What is it that you believe in? And what is that same thing that you also have doubts in? If you come here for community, does this community make you feel comfortable enough to face any fears that you may have, to publicly share your faith statement? And if you wouldn't feel comfortable, what does that say about the depth, strength of Unitarian Universalism and of our community? As Unitarian Universalists, might we have a de facto don't ask, don't tell policy when it comes to matters of faith? Might we fear amongst people we love and people who love us here of coming out of faith's closet? Might we fear admitting to one another that we're Christian UUs or pagan UUs or Jewish UUs? If we have a don't ask and don't tell policy, and in my bones I kind of feel that we do in Unitarian Universalism, what does it say about UUism and about this community? But then again, maybe don't ask, don't tell has nothing to do with fear. Maybe we subscribe to this policy simply and sadly because we have nothing to tell. That faith development is like a non sequitur. Like, huh? Faith development? Why? Then again, maybe we subscribe to a don't ask, don't tell policy because we fear accountability as to what a public faith calls us to be. If no one knows where I stand, then no one can call upon me to defend what my faith calls upon me to defend. If no one knows where I stand, no one will be able to know my tipping points regarding matters of justice and injustice. Don't ask, don't tell can be a cover, an excuse for inaction. In a way, each year, by sharing their faith statements, our coming-of-age students are taking a stand. What does it mean to take a stand? Or actually, more importantly, what happens after we take a stand or anyone takes a stand? Generally, things just start happening. Our actions, in the face of doubt, risk, and danger sometimes, become instantiated, infused with purpose and meaning. I believe that's what the search for meaning is truly about. That meaning isn't something out there that we need to search for, waiting to be discovered. No, but it's a calling from within, an expression of action, a realization of something deeply held within you that is awaiting fulfillment. When people take a stand, when people instantiate their actions with purpose and meaning, they take a seat on a bus or at a lunch counter, and they refuse to get up. They house runaway slaves in their churches, people being pursued by slave hunters, and in a response to a modern incarnation of a fugitive slave law, they hide and give shelter to undocumented people who are being pursued by local authorities, deputized by ICE as slave hunters under a modern fugitive slave law. Yes, when you take a stand, things begin to happen. In our poem this morning, all my friends are finding new beliefs. The poet Christian Wyman is astonished and perhaps overwhelmed at all the new beliefs of his friends. And it's hard to keep track of for him, hard for him to keep up. Yet all these new beliefs are being freely told, freely shared amongst his community of friends. And he writes, all my friends are finding new beliefs, and I'm finding it harder and harder to keep track of the new gods and the new loves and the old gods and the old loves. And the planet's turning faster and faster in the blackness. And my nights and my doubts and my friends, my beautiful, credible friends. Together, in community, may we have the courage to take a stand, to share our new beliefs, and to allow things to happen here and in our community, things infused with meaning and purpose amongst our doubts and our friends, our beautiful, credible friends.
In an effort to fulfill and further the vision and mission of this congregation, we ask that our members and friends bring forth and share their many and varied gifts. This morning's offering will now be received using the Givelify app. Thank you. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again.
Brene Brown writes, "Courage is to tell the story of who you are with your whole heart. May you have the courage to tell that story, to take a stand amongst friends, our beautiful friends, and may it uncover the meaning in your life. Go in peace and enjoy your week."